you may be struggling right now. You may not be, you're trying to figure it out, trying to see what you like, trying to see what you want to do. But eventually, you are going to hit it. You're going to finally get the hang of things, and it's going to take you far, far further than you could have ever imagined,
You're listening to the CFL Podcast, where possibility is at work. Here, we explore what it means to empower learners, connect communities, create impact, and help Nevada thrive. Each episode shares stories and ideas from the people reimagining what learning can look like in our community and beyond. Because when we learn, build, and dream together, anything is possible.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CFL Podcast. I'm Akilah Bello, a Youth Innovation Associate at the CFL, and I'm going to be your host today. Today's topic is going to be on learning outside of the classroom, and I'm joined by
Gavin. I'm a photographer and graphic designer at Rancho High School, and I lead my school's media department.
All right, so I'd like to start off with a question. How did you get into photography?
So I think it was the end of February of 2025. And at that time period in my life, I wasn't doing too well mentally. I wasn't doing too well physically. And I was doing graphic design at the time. And graphic design, it was fun, but it wasn't as fun for me as it used to be anymore, because what happened was I'd taken it way too far and too seriously and turned it into more of a job than just a hobby or an art, So
burnout, sort of.
Yeah, I was feeling major burnout. I was really going through it at the time. And I'm a people person. I can't, I can't just be locked in my room for 5 hours a day, all by myself making a poster while I'm just kind of rotting away in my room, So, and I feel, not to boast or anything, but I love creating things. I love being a creator. So I saw photography as a way to as like an alternative,
Mm-hmm. So you're a more hands-on learner, sort of like you want to get your feet dirty in the mud,
Definitely.
sort of. Okay.
Definitely. I'd ever explore and break a bone and, stay inside all day and do absolutely nothing, And what had happened is I was doing graphics at the time for track. So I was making their schedule posters. I was making their meet day posters and whatnot. And while I was making the deal with them, they asked me, hey, are you going to take photos for us as well? And on the spot, I was like, yeah, man, yeah. I'd never touched a camera a day in my life, So what happened was I was like, oh, no, I just got myself into something I don't even know about. I don't know nothing about photography. I did know about photography. I studied it a little bit, but I hadn't gotten into it at the time. So I went to my school's media department, and
this is Mr. Flenner, right?
Yes. I introduced myself saying, hey, my name is Gavin. I'm taking photos for Trek. May I borrow a camera? And he was just, he completely helped me out every step of the way. He was like, oh, yeah, sure. Just go borrow a camera, And I got on the bus of Track. We went to, I think it was Green Valley High School, actually. And it was the most fun I had ever had in literally months. And basically, the entire time, I was just running around, taking photos of them, talking to people, being out in the sun, and it was so much more enjoyable than, staying in my room for, 5 hours a day, making posters, then getting paid, $5 for 5 hours of work,
So it just sort of happened, like, you saw this opportunity, you were like, you know what, why not? And it sort of snowballed there into your photography business?
That me just saying yes to something I didn't even know about led me to this point, if I'm being honest. Yeah, there was no prior, it was on the spot. I just said yes. And ever since then, I've loved photography more than anything, honestly.
And that's the sort of student initiative that we always talk about at the CFL that we want to see more in education, where students are able to take charge of their learning and seek out opportunities on their own. So it's really gratifying to hear your experiences and see that that youth are actually trying and seeking out these opportunities by themselves, because many naysayers will say, oh, well, do youth really want this? Is this something they're actively pushing for and looking for? They're looking for it. They just happen to find it outside of the classroom a lot. And so I feel like that brings me on to my next question. There are a lot of skills that are associated with photography, like observation, attention to detail, and other skills that you need to use. So how have you used these other skills in other aspects of your life?
I never did graphic design just for as a job. I did it originally just making posters in my room, so I could actually put posters up on my room. So I would make posters of like I don't know, astronauts in space or whatever, or certain things like that. So instead of me doing it just for, a job, for school, for this client, for that, I would do it as well just for myself. So I could, have something up in my room, or just so I can go, hey, that looks super cool, And when it comes to photography, I absolutely love street photography as well, And I don't do it for money. I don't do that for anything. I do it just strictly because, it's part of the art, It's fun. It's engaging, It's hands-on, as you said. You get to be out in the sun. You get to be out maybe talking to people from time to time, and that also helps my mental health as well because, like I said, I'm a people person. I can't be just locked up in my room 24/7. I have to be out talking to people. I have to be out in the sun. I have to be out doing all this in order to stay happy,
So photography really helped you with your communication and socializing skills. I know at the time when I had met you, you were friends with a lot of people at the time, and I find that I looked at you and I was like, how can you be so sociable? Like, I was sitting here like, I could not keep up with this many people, and I still can't. So that's amazing that photography brought you that sort of connection that you were looking for and helped you when you were in a dark place in your life. And so I want to ask, when you're taking photos, are there specific things you're trying to capture? Like, what are the essences of your photos? What is your photography?
I'd say honestly, what I look for in photos is not really more so of I mainly do sports photography, but for street photography as well, it also implies I look for people because people are the heart of this world. They're what make everything in this world, So I look for the expressions on people's faces because those usually make great photos if I'm being honest, and I mainly also look for the action stuff. So when it comes to sports photography, you have to really be on. You have to track the ball. You have to track the players. You have to track, okay, who's going to be here, who's going to be here. Is the ball coming this way? So you have to be right here to get a photo of the ball. So it takes a lot of, I think, calculating if that makes sense. And with that being said, also, when it comes to like football, for example, it's very hard to capture their faces because when it comes to faces, that's how we express ourselves. That's how humans make expressions, and expressions show off emotions, and emotions show off kind of the soul in a person. And that's what I strive to capture. So when it comes to like a sport like football, for example, it's kind of hard. So you have to instead look for more of the action instead of more so of the emotion, if that makes sense.
It seems like you go for very candid, realistic photos. Like, instead of trying to make everyone look pretty, you're trying to get things in the moment. And I feel like that conveys a sense of realism in photography that's sort of missing sometimes when you look at magazines or cover shoots. It's always, everyone looks pretty. Like, this looks like this came out of a photography session, rather than this was a moment captured in somebody's life. And that's something that you try and capture in your photography, I feel like.
Yes, but at the same time, I try to release the best photos I possibly can of people because I don't want to make them look bad.
No. I'm not trying to imply you're making them look bad, but it feels more like candid and in the moment rather than, pose like this.
Yes.
Put your arm here, the lighting is right here. It feels like in the moment. And I feel like that kind of comes with the territory of sports photography, but I also feel like that's what you're searching for when it comes to street photography as well. And so I'd like you to expand more on your business. What does it entail exactly?
It is complicated. This kind of job is complicated because at first, when it comes to a job like photography or graphic design, at first you have to do stuff for free. It's not really an option because no one knows you. No one knows your work. So in order to, put work out there, you have to do stuff for free. And it takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of, nights where you're thinking, oh, is any of this even worth it? Is this worth it? Should I continue this? But once you make it past that threshold and once you start actually gaining clients, it's a lot easier to know how much your work's actually valued. Because I've had even times where I've wondered, like, how much is my work actually worth? If I was my client, would I charge this much for this amount of work? Would I do this? Would I do that? So when it comes to my business personally, I look at it from a client side as well as my side too. Okay, if I was the client, how much would I charge? Like, would I pay a photographer this much to get these many photos of me? Would I pay for me to look this good, in these photos? And I think that's a very valuable thing in this kind of profession, because many photographers charge absurd amount of rates, and I obviously understand, because this equipment, it's not cheap. It's not cheap at all. These cameras, these lenses, for all thousands of dollars. As for me, I try to charge a bit on the lower side because my audience is more towards high schools. It's more towards kids. For sports photography, I've worked with other clients too, of course, but mainly for me, I know for these kids, okay, they have to pay the bills. They have bills to pay. They have usually lower paying jobs because they're just starting out in life. So you have to really put yourself in your client's shoes and understand where they're coming from and where you're coming from.
It seems like in running your business, you've had to develop a sense of empathy, not only to fellow human beings, but also on the logistic side of your business, so you can put yourself in your client's shoes and evaluate, is this a service that I'd reasonably pay this amount for? And that's what we want when it comes to pushing for education reform. We want students to develop these skills like empathy and advocacy that you were talking about in your business that you've just spoken about. We want them to develop this in a natural sort of way, to where it's not just something that's taught in the classroom. It's something that they can take outside of the classroom and apply in their own life. And so I want to ask, have there been times when you've had to advocate for yourself when it comes to running your photography business?
Many times. If I'm being completely honest, many times. There was this one instance where I was told I was in the wrong for charging my work because I was doing photography for the school at one point, and I was asked of me, hey, can you do photos? Can you do photos? I'll pay you, of course, at the game. And, I went to the game. Then I asked afterwards, hey, when am I going to get paid? And he said, oh, not until Monday. And I'm keeping everyone anonymous, of course, And this is nothing bad against these people, This is just a story that happened to me, And he told me flat out, quote unquote, I'm not going to pay you. And I was like, oh, okay, that's lovely. So I went to the coach about it because I went to someone else in media about this to ask. I asked for advice, because I was starting out, and they were like, well, you should probably go to the coach about this. So I went to the coach, and then he told me I was in the wrong for charging for my work because it should be under the school's name and not my name because it's for the school, which I never understood because, for example, like, if you're coaching for a school, you shouldn't be getting paid because, it's for a school. I never understood. That's my mentality. That's the mentality he was giving me, at least, So I never understood that. So I had to advocate for myself to go like, hey, that's not this is my work. This is, I'm not here just, to screw around or whatever, I'm here to do my job that I was originally paid to do. And that also taught me, because what many photographers do is they'll have like a system where like you pay up front, like half, and then you'll pay half afterwards, which is now what I do. So a situation like that doesn't happen again.
And it seems like you've learned a lot about self-advocacy through your business, and all of these skills are what we want students to learn out of classroom experiences. And so what do you think students would gain if they had more access to out of classroom experiences, like, say, internships, career workshops, and the like?
I personally think that they would have a lot more. I think that's kind of complicated because I know for a fact a lot of people, especially nowadays, need more thinking for themselves, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like they could gain a lot more, not just all these experiences and all of these different like types of learning, because through this I've learned, how to run a business, how to grow in a professional field. It's not just that also, but it's also being able to show off how you see the world in your own way. And I think especially now, we need a lot more of that in the world, just showing off how you see the world, how you can show off how you see everything, if that makes sense. And not just that, but also thinking for yourself as well, because it takes a lot of pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, if that makes sense. It takes a lot of pushing yourself, not just out of your comfort zone, but to places you never expected to go either,
Mm-hmm. So you feel like students would learn more agency for themselves and individualism
Definitely.
alongside critical thinking. And these are important skills that students need to thrive, not just in their careers, but also in their personal lives. You wanted to add something?
It's not just that. It's also just the matter of being able to learn what you want to do. Like, I've always pushed for more creativity, and I've pushed, especially in my school, it doesn't matter. Like, I've personally, for example, can't cook. I know for a fact I can't, but I know if I really tried to apply myself with it, I could get better at it, but it's just not my criteria, My point is that even if you think you don't like something, at least try it. At least, just say yes to it. Just say yes, just do whatever and see what you like. You're not going to, I personally don't think you're going to be able to hit it right on the dot on what you want to do in life. It takes a long time to figure it out, I'm grateful enough to be able to figure it out early in life, But I know for a fact a lot of people, especially even my mom, for example, she didn't figure out what she wanted to do until she was 40 years old, So, and I know there's a lot of people like that in the world. So I feel like with more creative outlets like this, you can discover in life a lot easier what you want to do, how you want to do it, how you want to show off what you can make.
I definitely agree with you on that, especially as someone who's gotten into college and thinking about, which college do I want to go to? It was difficult trying to narrow down what major I wanted to do, because I remember, like, if you asked me like 2 years ago, I might have said computer engineering or coding. Now, if you ask me that, I would absolutely, I'd say I was crazy, because I do know how to code more now that I'm taking AP Comp Sci, and I can tell you straight up, I can't imagine that as a career.
Not fun?
And it's fun, but I'm not good at it. So I can't imagine doing that as a career. And I feel like if we had more creative outlets for students in schools, they'd have that time to go through trial and error rather than waiting until junior year and being like, everyone asks you during junior year, I'm sure you've had this experience, what do you want to do?
What do you want to do in life? Yep, that's a question everyone's been asked before.
What do you want to major in? What do you want to do? What's the direction in your life? And I was sitting here like, oh my God, I have no idea. It switched every month. I would have said pharmacy in February. I would have said software engineering. I would have said anything. I wanted to be a doctor. I can't imagine doing that now. And finally having settled on doing biochemistry and biomedical engineering, because I finally recognized.
Oh, congrats.
Thank you.
That's insane. That's congrats to you too.
I recognized my passion for biology, and I was thinking, I want to do that. And even then, I'm not sure, because I can imagine myself going to college and changing my major. And that's why I feel like it's so important to have creative spaces and outlets for students to sort of mess up and realize, maybe this isn't for me, or maybe this isn't gonna work for me.
Truthfully, you're not gonna hit it on the dot the first time. You're not. You're gonna miss. You're gonna fail. You're gonna screw up more times than you can count. And there's gonna be nights where you wonder, should I even continue this? Should I even continue doing this? But you have to keep in mind as well the end picture, like the end goal, the final picture, the bigger picture, I should say, actually, is that, yeah, you may be struggling right now. You may be you may be struggling right now. You may not be, you're trying to figure it out, trying to see what you like, trying to see what you want to do. But eventually, you are going to hit it. You're going to finally get the hang of things, and it's going to take you far, far further than you could have ever imagined, And I'm not just speaking about, I don't mean you, I mean this in general, people.
And now that we've talked about that and all the benefits that I feel like more creative outlets and just more learning outside of traditional education can bring, what do you wish adults understood more about what young people want to learn about and what they want their education to look like?
First things first, I probably have to say, I think asking a junior, like a 16-year-old, what they want to do for the next 70 years of their life is kind of absurd, in my opinion. I think that's personally like an absurd thing to do. Like, I'm sure many kids, who are working don't want to work at McDonald's for the next 30 years, obviously. But what I wish they knew more is that it's not just about the fact that, you can do all these things. It's just a matter of also, that's a hard question,
I know, it's a difficult question.
Question.
Because when you think of it, there's no real one thing you want adults to know. It's so many different things that encompass what you wish education looked like for you. And so, since that was so broad a question, let's hone it in. What's something you wish you had more of in your educational experience?
Ooh, if I had to say at least just one thing I'd want in my personal education, it'd probably be more funding, honestly, from the school, because our school district isn't, I don't think, funded enough. So, and I think, these are the people who are going to lead the future of the world. I feel like that's the one thing you should be funding, if anything, So I'd like to see more funding for more equipment for more students. So, and not just for media, of course. I mean for every single department there is, for culinary, for teaching, teaching training, for what you take, AP Computer Science. More funding in all of these different classes. So maybe, we have a higher standard to where students can try more things out, can be more and more creative, can see what they want to do in life.
And that's something I can totally agree with. I wish there was more experiential learning when it comes to education, like dip your toes in the sort of mud, like get into it, get into the nitty-gritty details and learn about what it actually means to try and be doing these jobs. Like before I said, oh, I want to be a software engineer, I want to do coding. Having taken AP Comp Sci for a semester now, I'm sitting here like, oh, I can't imagine doing that for the rest of my life. Coding is fun, and it's definitely something I enjoy, and it's always really entertaining to see something you thought up in your head actually come to life on a computer screen. But it's also something I have to sit back and be like, I don't think this really clicks for me. And it's that sort of trial and error that people go through for the rest of their lives, not just students. I wish adults understood that kids do want more of that. I feel like there's this misconception that kids hate education or that they really don't like school. And I don't think...
Yes, I've definitely seen that in my school especially, yes.
Yes, and I feel like there is a lack of enthusiasm from students when it comes to education, but I think that also comes with the territory that everything is so rigid right now in the traditional classroom that some of the best educational experience students get are from extracurriculars, are from jobs, or internships, things that are outside of school, like your business.
Yeah. I also think that, I mean, if I'm being honest, if you're just going from bell schedule to bell schedule, not doing any extracurricular activities, not, interacting with anyone or your teachers, of course, school isn't going to be the greatest place on earth. You're going there for 7 hours a day, it is rough. It is. And a couple more hours afterwards, yeah, it does seem rough, but I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it to get involved into the school, because I know a lot of people ask or say like, oh, the school sucks, we can't, there's nothing to do. We have over 80 clubs at my school. There's more than enough things to do.
So many clubs.
There's a food club. I've never even heard of that until, just a couple weeks ago.
I didn't know there was a D&D club for like a year on campus, and then I saw it and I was like, that looks cool. And they're doing new things every time. Like, I just saw in the morning announcements a few months ago, they're doing this new club, which is like NOC club, where you literally...
What's that?
Original character. It's where like you literally, it's for cultivating writing talent as well as just trying to build more creativity, right? And all of these things seem really cool, but so many of these things happen outside of school. Like, this isn't something that the school is actively promoting. This is something that students have to go to on their own initiative. And I don't think that's wrong necessarily. I think it being an out-of-school experience is what makes it so special in the first place. But I wish we found more experiences like this in our traditional educational...
Of course, yeah.
Especially with subjects like mathematics or science. I feel like people find math to be incredibly boring sometimes. Like, if you're not a math person, most people don't enjoy math, but there are so many different ways to make math more fun and hands-on. Like, I got to play with Play-Doh during AP Calculus once.
You got to play with Play-Doh.
Exactly, and I got to be hands-on that entire class period, and it actually helped me learn more about math and visualize the concepts, while also being fun and a very memorable learning experience that I'm not going to forget for a very long time.
See, that's what we need in classrooms. That's what we need in the world. That's what we need, more stuff like that. See, that's something you remember. Do you remember that lesson as well? By any chance? See, you remember that lesson. You retained that information because that's something out of the ordinary. That's not something you usually do. For example, my government teacher, or econ teacher, sorry, every single assignment we do is pretty much a project. And does it get stressful at times? Yeah, but I remember things. I remember how this is. Okay, how does this work in the economy? How does this work? I remember these things because, okay, these are hands-on creative projects. And I feel like, especially in classes where people find boring, I know math or in English and, government, U.S. history, these aren't classes people obviously want to attend. Realistically speaking, people don't want to attend these classes, which I feel like with projects like what you said, like with the activity you did in your classroom, for example, I think we could do in a lot more classrooms as well. I don't know how we could apply it into English, for example, but I know for a fact if you were able to do it in math, you can definitely do it in other classes too,
Yeah, and that's what I think is really interesting, is that there are glimpses of the education that we talk about. I feel like everyone's had at least one teacher that they're really chill with, and they're like, yo, you're my bro.
No, yeah, I have many teachers who I'm just extremely cool with. I know pretty much all the school staff, faculty, and I'm chill. They are all such lovable people. I absolutely love every single person on that campus. They're all incredible.
And those teachers are the ones who you tend to remember after high school. These are the teachers that you're going to remember. I still remember some of my elementary school teachers who really shaped who I am today by just what they did in their classroom. And that's why learning both inside and outside of the classroom is important. So I think we're getting to the end of the podcast, but I have 2 more questions left for you.
Okay.
The first one is, if someone wanted to pick up photography, what tips or advice would you give them?
Don't give up. First things first, just don't give up.
That's the first thing you have to say.
The first thing you have to say is don't give up. It gets hard. It gets rough. It's not something you're going to enjoy for a bit. Secondly, you're going to enjoy it. You are going to enjoy it. But it comes with a cost. You really are going to have to push yourself out there, and you really are going to have to... It's going to be rough at first. It's always rough. That's for anything, though, I feel, honestly. It's always rough learning things at first. But especially with photography, because let's say I get the Canon R5, for example, which is, I think, I want to say $2,799. And that's just for the body alone. That's not even counting a lens, which a lens for that kind of camera can cost upwards to $2,000.
I can tell you that much is not in my bank account right now.
Yeah, neither is mine. Don't worry. But, like I said earlier, you're going to have to do some free work. So spending like $4,000 on equipment to do free labor, it's not fun at all. It really isn't. But, once you do give a portfolio, once you get it up and running, it really is such a wonderful experience to have. It really is. So my advice really is don't give up when times get rough, because I've been there. Every photographer who's ever taken a photo has been there. I promise you that.
Would you suggest that people who don't want to do it as seriously, they keep it as a hobby and just buy like low price to mid-range camera and just sort of capture the things that they want to?
What advice would I give them?
Like if they want to keep it as a hobby rather than a business.
Learn as much as you can about film, honestly, because the film part of photography, that's the art in it, I feel like. Digital is also art. Don't get me wrong. The way you edit the photos, of course, that's also, the part of the art. But learn composition, of course. Like, just keep learning as much as you possibly can about it, because that's just for, I feel like, any hobby in general, honestly. You just want to learn more and more about it, So, with that being said, of course, when it comes to as a hobby, of course, it's not, you don't have to buy, like I said, like the best camera there is on the market, of course. I just use that as an example because that's what, most sports photographers and high-end photographers use, of course. I'd say just don't stress too much about it. If you don't want to go out, don't go out. Don't force yourself to do anything you don't want to do, of course. If you're not feeling it that day, but you still want to go out, do what you want to do. That's my advice. Just do what you want to do. And don't let anyone stop you either. If people don't like your photos, so what? Who cares? If you want to post them online, do it. Who cares? You can't let people get to your head. You can't let things distract you. But if you're not feeling it, then don't do it. If you are feeling it that day, then do it. It doesn't matter, it's really.
All right, here's my final question, pivoting back to education. What would your dream classroom look like?
There would be cameras on display everywhere. I'm telling you right now, there would be cameras on display everywhere. No, but actually, more than likely, I'd have a classroom probably like I'd set up the desks in a engaging. No, I wouldn't set it in like rows, if that makes sense. I'd set it more maybe like how would I set it up? That's a good question.
Tables? Would you even have chairs? I was thinking I'd have beanbags.
I'd have something chill, because media is a very creative and chill class. I feel like my class would look very vibrant, very colorful, very chill looking. I'd have posters up everywhere on the wall. I would have, cameras in a closet somewhere where we'd be locked up, of course, for security reasons, obviously. It's meant to be fun, but have to, care about security as well, I'd just make it as vibrant and as welcoming as possible. I'd make it, smell nice, obviously. I would try to just make it as engaging as possible.
And I feel like that's what everyone wants in their sort of learning space. They want it to be more chill, less stressful, definitely. And I definitely see why you'd want that. I'd want like beanbags or very chill and comfortable atmospheres.
Now that you say beanbags, I was in teaching and training for 2 years, and I have considered becoming a media teacher. So if I ever do actually pursue teaching, I might do beanbags. That's actually a really good idea you had.
Now that's what your future classroom may look like. Okay, look back on this in 10 years if you actually go through with that and be like, okay, that was my idea. I'm the one who gets credit.
You'll get credit. Don't worry. I'll have you engraved in the wall. That idea was from you. Don't worry.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Thank you so much, Gavin, for being a part of our podcast. Again, the topic was on learning outside of the classroom. I feel like you've given us such valuable insights through your photography business and your own education.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me on this wonderful podcast.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for listening, everyone. This is the CFL Podcast signing out.
You're listening to the CFL Podcast, where possibility is at work. Here, we explore what it means to empower learners, connect communities, create impact, and help Nevada thrive. Each episode shares stories and ideas from the people reimagining what learning can look like in our community and beyond. Because when we learn, build, and dream together, anything is possible.